I just knew. I knew it was gonna happen. Hi all, welcome back to my channel. It's that time of year again. It's Valentine's Day week. For us single gals out there, Valentine's Day can feel very daunting and it feels like a holiday that you can't celebrate for yourself. But I disagree. I am an avid lover of Valentine's Day as a single woman. I make Valentine's Day all about me. So every year I hold off watching my favorite movie of all time, Pride and Prejudice 2005. Until Valentine's Day to make the day feel really special. Mr. Darcy is the #1 iconic main male character. You cannot top him if you tried. So this Valentine's Day, I'm really excited to be celebrating 20th anniversary of the Pride and Prejudice movie. I'm so excited. In the spirit of Valentine's Day and love and romance, I wanted to do a tier list of all of the pink books that I have on my bookshelf. So again, kind of a mix of books here, but I'm actually really excited about this because some of these books I haven't even thought about since I read them, and some of them are from middle school. I'm excited to do this tier list and celebrate Valentine's Day with you guys. So I wanted to go through all of the tiers so that we know the ranking system before we get into the video. So the #1 top tier, S tier, best book you could ever think of is going to be called In My Bloodstream, due to some of these books being the absolute lifeline of my life. And I'm sure there's a few of those if we're being honest. My next one is No Notes, Even If I Tried Really Hard. So that's going to be a 5-star. Literally, there is not a single thing that I would change, but it's not necessarily ingrained in my DNA like the ones above. The next one is So Good, But Something Was Missing, which I kind of consider, that's kind of how I rank 4-star books. Like, it was so good, and I loved it, but there was just that one thing that kind of threw it off. That'll be a 4 stars for me. So that's the middle tier. The 4th one is okay, but would not pick it up again, which is totally fine. I didn't want to do 1 stars whatever, because unfortunately I'm not going to be buying 1-star books. I only buy physical copies of books when I actually really like them, or they've been gifted to me, obviously. So none of these are going to be horrible reads. All of them are going to be something that I wouldn't mind saying that it's great and I have a positive connotation when I think about the book, but you know, years and time is very telling. So we'll see where that goes. And the last tier is Give Me a Break. I was in middle school. Like I said, a lot of these are going to be books that I read in middle school. And don't get me wrong, I had great taste in middle school, but obviously they're not the masterpieces that I'm reading today. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, starting off strong, Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. Now, I am a big Christina Lauren fan. I love their work. Okay, and Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating was actually my first book by them, and I thought it was actually really cute and very sweet. I read this in college, so probably around 2018, 2019, and I remember reading it in a singular day, which now that doesn't feel like that's such an accomplishment, but back then it was. So obviously it was really good and I absolutely loved it, and I loved how quirky Hazel was. I had never read a character who was so herself and a little weird, but in a charming and, you know, sweet way. And Josh was very rigid. He ended up falling in love with Hazel anyway, and I thought it was really sweet. Now with time, like I said, it's been a couple of years. I think I'm going to put Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating to probably So Good, But Something Was Missing, just because as much as I loved it at the time, I think that now that I'm looking back at it, there's nothing that actually stood out to me. You know those books that you read and there are certain scenes or the plot, or there's just something about it that sticks with you and you cannot let it go. Josh and Hazel's Guide is not one of them, but it's still great. And I'm sure if I read it again, it would still be a 5 stars, but I'm gonna have to put it on the middle tier. Okay, next is Tools of Engagement by Tessa Bailey. As you guys know, I am a big Tessa Bailey fan. Tessa Bailey is actually probably top 5 favorite authors of all time. I refuse to not read anything that she has ever come out with, unfortunately. So I am very well versed in all of her works. With Tools of Engagement, I think I'm gonna put it under okay, but would not pick again. There was like nothing wrong with it per se, but it didn't hit as hard as Fixer Up did. And honestly, I remember reading it and being like a little bored just because like nothing was really happening. That was a pretty easy one. Okay, this next one, I think the only reason I even made the last tier is because of this book, Anna and the French Kiss, which it was a book that I read in middle school. Obviously, I absolutely loved it. I have the physical copy. I have not read it in years, so I genuinely don't remember the plot at all, but I do remember it being a good book for tweens, middle school students, things like that. Unfortunately, that's just like not my taste now, so I'm gonna have to put it in Give Me a Break. I was in middle school, but I actually this year, one of my goals is to try and read books that I read when I first started to get into reading, which like obviously is like The Hunger Games and The Selection and Anna and the French Kiss. There are a lot of books that I want to reread from my past to just see how they hold up. Maybe I'll give this one another go. Okay, the next one, The Dare by Elle Kennedy. I am obviously a huge Elle Kennedy fan. I've read all of the Off-Campus series. I've read all of the Briar U series. I cannot help but eat up every single thing that she has put out as far as the Briar world. If we're thinking about the Off-Campus series and the Briar U series as a whole, not individual books, as a whole, I think that I liked the Briar U series better just because out of the 4 books that came out, 3 of them were rock solid, and in the Off-Campus series, I only liked 2.5 of them. Unfortunately, The Dare was the miss for me in the Briar U series, but I could not let myself buy every single copy of that series and not the last one. So I do have a physical copy of her. I will never pick it up again. I'm gonna go ahead and put that under okay, but I would never read again. All right, next is the 3rd book in the Briar U series, The Play, and The Play was actually my favorite in that series. I think I gave it 5 stars. Now back then when I was reading these books, my 5 stars were given very loosely. Now I'm really strict with myself. So thinking about how I am today, I'm gonna have to put The Play at so good, but something was missing because it didn't have that je ne sais quoi that The Deal had, but it was still so good. I loved how they were like best friends before they actually started dating. I wouldn't say that The Play had no notes because when I go back and think about it, it definitely did, but I did really love it and I would recommend it to you. But once again, so good, something was missing. Okay, next is Practice Makes Perfect. Now a little backstory about Practice Makes Perfect. This was the first Sarah Adams book that I've ever read, and it was actually the 2nd in the series. I didn't even read the 1st one in the series before I read that, but they're all standalones, just about the same family. So I did read Practice Makes Perfect in a singular night. I literally stayed up till 4 a.m. reading it because I was obsessed with Will Griffin. Love that man so much, and the rest of the series is actually really good and she's not even done with it yet, so that's exciting. Anyway, I think I'm gonna put Practice Makes Perfect in no notes if I tried really hard, just because it was so amazing. Like genuinely, I could not tell you a single thing that I hated about the book, but I will not say that it's running in my bloodstream. Sarah Adams is an author who doesn't write spice. She does very well with like tension and angst, things like that, but she's not a very like smutty writer. So if you love romance books, but you don't want to get into like the smutty things of it all, I think Sarah Adams is actually a great author for you to try. I've read about like 6 of her books and I've loved all of them, and I like to read smut. So even if you are a smut lover, like I think she's a great author to try out. Okay, next is my tried and true, my literal mother, Elsie Silver. I understand that Reckless is not a pink cover per se, but it's close enough to pink that I was gonna put it on here due to like being completely and utterly obsessed with Theo. Theo is the best in the Chestnut Springs series, okay? His book was the best, and unfortunately I am gonna have to go ahead and put him in my bloodstream, okay? I have never been one to like accidental pregnancy trope at all. This one, I mean, just the way that he was so in love with this girl from the beginning, and no one believed that she could be like a great mother, all these things, and he was the only one that believed in her. Loved it. Elsie Silver, you are my mother. The next two are actually graphic novels that I read on Webtoon, I think during COVID. Laura Olympus, which my Percy Jackson heart was obviously obsessed with Laura Olympus due to it being about the Greek gods. And obviously I love Hades and Persephone. They all kind of blur together though, so I really don't know where one volume ends and one begins, but I think I could say that both the volume 1 and 2, which are the only two physical copies that I have, I think they're on the same playing field, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put them both in the tiers. I think I'm gonna put no notes if I really tried. I've only read a couple graphic novels in my life, but I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I thought that the angst and the build up and the story was just so beautiful, and the artwork is gorgeous. Hold on. Like, look at them. They're so pretty, like the blue and the pink. It's good. Hold on, let me find something real. Like all the gods are like all these different colors, and like Hades is just such a pretty little boy. The pink. Next, these two aren't beside each other on the tier list, but I'm going to just kind of lump them together because they are a series. So Heartstopper. I am the biggest Heartstopper fan. All of my friends know that how much Heartstopper means to me. I watch Heartstopper, I'm not kidding, once a month. I love my Nick and I love my Charlie. I read the comic during COVID, so obviously I read it all in like a day. I love Heartstopper so much. It is literally something that I think about on the daily. So I am going to go ahead and put them in my bloodstream, if you don't mind. I just love Heartstopper so much, and there is not a bad word that I could say about it. Love it to death. Okay, next is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. This was a book that she came out with last year, so it's pretty fresh. I will say I think it might be one of her spiciest books, and this one was really good. I did give it 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I will say that now that it's been a couple months, like there's not much that I remember from it other than I remember the feelings that I was feeling when I was reading it. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put it in so good, but something was missing. Okay, this next one is My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. As I stated previously, I am a big Tessa Bailey girl here in this house. We stan. My Killer Vacation is actually top 3 of her best books of all time. The thing about Tessa Bailey is I'm not obsessed with insta-love books. I don't like it when things are in the span of like a week and they're in love and they're gonna get married, like unrealistic. But unfortunately Tessa Bailey does that, and it kind of just like works for her, and that's exactly what happened in this book. And I actually like think about it every summer. Like I almost think about like maybe I should make it like a yearly reread just because of how much I loved it. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in no notes even if I tried, because Tessa Bailey is perfect in every way. My Killer Vacation did that. Next is Love in Other Words. Love in Other Words is one of the best romance novels of all time. It is one of the most gorgeous and beautiful friends to lovers. Macy and Elliot hold such a chokehold on me. Sometimes I get really teary-eyed when I think about these two, and I think it's actually a perfect read for Valentine's Day, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in my bloodstream because it is. Okay, this next one is Marriage for One. So I read this one in college as well. It was probably the longest book that I had read at the time, which was probably, I think it was 500 pages, so like, whew, that's nothing nowadays. But I do remember really liking this one. It was a marriage of convenience. It was a little cringy that the two main characters were Jack and Rose, Titanic style, but I did really enjoy it. And this was the first time I read a book about a girl who was going through like something medical. So even though they barely knew each other and they were like married, he was like helping her get through like this medical scare that she was going through. It was actually really sweet. And I also don't think like this one is as known as these other ones that I've talked about, but I actually do like this book a lot. It's just been a really long time since I've read it, and so for that I'm gonna have to put so good but something was missing, just because even though I really liked it, like there isn't anything like significant that comes to mind when I think about that book other than like her going to the hospital and him helping her go through what she's going through situation. So I will put it under so good but something is missing, but once again I really do recommend it. It's actually a really sweet story. Okay, this next one, Our King, once again from our mother Elsie Silper, Flawless, Rhett Eaton. That is my baby girl. I don't even have to say an explanation. That man is in my bloodstream. For those who know me, I think about Rhett Eaton on the daily. Now I know that I said that Theo's book was the best, and I will stand by that. I think that Theo's book is the best. No one talks about Rhett enough. He is, I just love him so much. This is one of the beginning stages of me getting into like a cowboy romance. I read all of them over Christmas break, and I was obviously addicted to every single one of them, but something about Rhett has stuck with me. So he will be in my bloodstream as well as all the Eatons are. The next one, Red, White, and Royal Blue. Now, I read this book the literal day it came out. I think it was in 2019. I honestly don't remember. And I've read it every year since. Every 4th of July, I do read Red, White, and Royal Blue. I actually got to meet Casey McQuiston in 2019. It was literally for free at a book conference in Louisiana, and loved her to death. This was actually, she had just released the news about the movie coming out, and it just shows how long it takes to make a movie, because I asked her in 2019 about the movie and she didn't have an answer for me, and that movie came out in 2024. I think it came out last year. Unfortunately, I am gonna have to put it in, not in my blood, even though I read it every single year. It's gonna be the one below No Notes, even if I tried, just because as much as I love the book so much, I think the movie kind of like tainted my view about it. The movie was okay, but it just like it did not hit the way the book did. And so I have to unfortunately put it a tier below. But once again, No Notes. My big for my sorority, we were the ones that met her together. So for Christmas, we actually annotated the books for each other. So I have a lot of like highlights and annotations from my big, here's her signature. I don't know what this is. There was something that got stained, but either way, you can tell she's pretty dingy. She's been through it. Well loved, as they say. So I do love them. Alex and Henry have my heart, but they're not in my blood anymore. They used to be, but not anymore. All right, this next one, I think this goes without saying, A Court of Wings and Ruin. Sarah J. Maas is the best author of our generation, of all time, dare I say. There is nothing that woman has put out that I haven't completely devoured and thought about it every day for the rest of my life. It's been 8 years since I read the first ACOTAR book, and there hasn't been a day that goes by that I don't think about Rhys-Ann and Vera. So I think it goes without saying that they are in my bloodstream. I actually think that as much as everyone loves A Court of Mist and Fury, which obviously I do too, now that I've been seasoned and have marinated on this series for so long, I really do think that A Court of Wings and Ruin might be my favorite in the series. So yeah, obviously in my bloodstream. This last one is Butcher and Blackbird, which I actually put in my top reads of 2024. I do think about Rowan and Salome a lot, but not enough for them to be in my blood. Still love them though. Completely would recommend. Anybody who wants a little bit of dark romance, a little bit of humor, like you cannot go wrong with Butcher and Blackbird. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in No Notes, even if I tried, because it's absolutely amazing. Well, there you have it, guys. There is the tier list for every single pink book that I have had on my bookshelf. I just want to say happy Valentine's Day to all of my viewers. I hope that you celebrate and the best way that you can, either curled up reading one of these books perhaps, or with someone that you love, or maybe watching the Pride and Prejudice from 2005 like I am. I hope that you celebrate in a way that makes you feel happy and worthy. And be sure to follow me on Goodreads. I have been really good. I think one of my goals this year is to write a review on every book that I read. You can also follow me on Instagram, ally.polk. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you don't mind. And yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Smooches.